The model is built to start to evaluate, does the Warren Commission report and most other experts have it backwards?
The first unconfirmed reports say the president was hit in the head.
I know if I shoot somebody in the back of the head goes flying forward.
President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Here's where our science ends. Now come in and use our information and see what you think.
This is True Crime Arizona, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast.
It was a feeling of pride for all Americans that day.
The usual welcoming committee presents Mrs. Kennedy with a bouquet of red roses.
And the lucky ones in Dallas, Texas, who showed up in red, white, and blue, waving flags, smiling as Air Force One landed.
Even the freeway was jam-packed with spectators waiting their chance to see the president as he made his way toward the Trade Mart.
November 22nd, 1963, President John F. Kennedy and the First Lady, Jackie Kennedy, would join Texas Governor John Connally in a motorcade through downtown Dallas.
The president's car is now turning onto Elm Street, and it will be only a matter of minutes before he arrives at the Trade Mart.
That's when history was changed forever.
It appears as though something has happened in the motorcade route. Something, I repeat, has happened in the motorcade route. There's numerous people running up the hill alongside Elm Street, there by the Simmons Freeway.
I have just talked to Father Oscar Hubert of the Holy Trinity Catholic Church. He and another priest tell me that a pair of men have just administered the last rite to President Kennedy. President Kennedy has been assassinated. The president is dead.
Americans were stunned. They turned their televisions to one of the most trusted men at the time, Walter Cronkite, as everyone watched him deliver the news.
President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
This was 1963, so trying to find video of what happened right away was extremely difficult, knowing only that President Kennedy had been shot to death, but still trying to figure out how, why, and from where.
The president's wife, Jackie Kennedy, was not hurt. She walked into the hospital at her husband's stretcher side.
Eventually, it was determined Lee Harvey Oswald fired 3 shots from a 6th floor window of the Texas School Book Depository that overlooked Dealey Plaza. The Warren Commission concluded that of the 3 shots, 2 of them hit John F. Kennedy. The second shot struck the president through his upper back and went through his throat. The third shot was the one that killed him, striking him in the head. But there was someone else hit in that limousine.
Just now, we've received reports here at Parkland that Governor Connally was shot in the upper left chest, and the first unconfirmed reports say the president was hit in the head.
Texas Governor Connally was also injured in the passenger seat in front of JFK. According to the Warren Commission report, Connally was struck by a bullet on the right side of his back. It went through his chest, passed through his right wrist, and entered his left thigh. Though seriously injured, Connally survived the injuries. The Warren Commission concluded the bullet that struck John F. Kennedy in his neck is the same bullet that struck and went through Governor Connally, widely known as the magic bullet or the single bullet theory. There have been so many conspiracies and different theories people have had about the assassination over the years, but science and technology has had to catch up in order to re-examine things. Now, it has, and it could alter history.
The analysis that we've gone through so far is that those can't be the same bullet. They don't align. We can't make Governor Connally's position match. We don't know where that second bullet comes from. We specialize in investigations and determining how and why something happened.
That's Stanley Stoll, the CEO and principal engineer at Knott Laboratory. They're based in Colorado, but have field offices across the country, including here in Phoenix.
We've added on the digital media forensics side of things, which is applying all of that same technology that we've used in the past to often involves shooting, any type of shooting reconstructions.
Nowadays, their company generally has very good video and pictures of shooting scenes or accident scenes to work off of. But in the JFK assassination, there was really only one thing they could work off of. It's the now infamous video taken by Abraham Zapruder that shows the clearest footage of JFK's motorcade as the shots are fired and the president and Texas governor are struck.
We've received reports here at Parkland that Governor Connolly was shot in the upper left.
Then shows the limousine speeding off out of Dealey Plaza. Stanley says they were contacted in 2018 by a man named John Orr.
This has been his life to investigate this case. And so in the 90s, he put together a report that he sent up to Janet Reno in the Attorney General's office. And he was requesting help in doing the analysis that we ultimately did. How we got involved is in 2018, he came to us because we could provide that service.
John Orr is a former Justice Department attorney who could not let this case go. He began his investigation as a private citizen, making trips to the National Archives to review all available documents, and was permitted to examine original evidence too, such as the president's shirt. He sent his report to the Attorney General in 1995, which did spark some re-examination of evidence by the FBI, but it didn't lead to anything new or conclusive. So, he funded Knott Laboratory to work on the case to prove or disprove that the single bullet theory may not be true. Years later, the Knott Laboratory is ready to discuss their findings, which certainly opens a Pandora box of discussion. To begin, the lab went to Dealey Plaza with several 3D laser scanners.
It's basically a survey tool. So you go out, you set up this survey device out there, and it's spinning around and is kicking out lasers and reflecting off the objects that it hits. And so as it goes through that process, it's collecting, the XYZ coordinates.
Even they have to keep up with the rapidly evolving technology in their own field.
In fact, from 2018 till we recently scanned it in 2023, even the development of the scanners in that time frame, in those 5 years, has developed substantially. The technology is progressing every day in what can be generated.
Once they finish with the lasers, they bring it back to their computer, and this is where the technology has really changed over the past few years. The data they collected from the lasers are tiny points, millions of them, to make what's called a point cloud.
It's a digital twin. It's bringing the field to your computer, the exact replica of whatever you wanted to scan. So now all of a sudden in these investigations, you have the ability to understand depth, whereas everything used to be two-dimensional and what you saw on camera may or may not be accurate. Now you can truly analyze it.
2D becomes 3D, and now they use their point cloud to match it frame by frame to the Zapruder film.
And you're basically looking through those photographs and you're tying that photograph to a 3D point in actual space now. So now the lamppost or the presidential limousine mirror or just the tiniest point, you're actually putting that back into space in the digital point cloud and assigning it coordinates that you can actually have. And so with the Zapruder film, you've got multiple frames there. So you see the sequence of the presidential limousine moving through the scene. And so you're doing that just over and over for each scene of each frame of where the presidential limousine is located.
As they began, things were matching up perfectly.
You can see how the lines of, say, the curb or the lamppost or the building, they come, they're lined up exactly where they should be in the point cloud.
If everything that the Warren Commission found and concluded was factually accurate, then assumably the entire scene from the point cloud, frame by frame, should line up with the Zapruder film and the injuries both men sustained.
Primarily, we were focused on the entrance wound, the exit wound in Governor Connolly, and then the embedment in his thigh. Those are 3 points that are reasonably in line there. What we were looking at is, can they be from the same bullet? That's the Warren Commission's conclusion, is the single bullet theory, that, the bullet exited through John F. Kennedy and then entered directly into Governor Connolly. Through the evaluation comes to show is that those aren't in line. Governor Connolly, his wound is sitting 6 to 10 inches towards the outside of the vehicle. You have to slide Governor Connolly to the inside of the vehicle. You have to slide him to the left to get that alignment. Single bullet theory would have to pass through the president, and then it has to slide over and then come in at another angle. They're not parallel trajectories either. For those alignments to match, you have to slide him to the inside of the vehicle, which the evidence suggests is not the case.
I mean, this is a pretty big deal, and Stanley knows it too.
Oh my goodness, this is big information, and this is the assassination. It's the crime of the century, if you will.
Working off this new scientific discovery, Stanley says you have to start examining the hypotheses already in place.
This is 2 bullets. Now you have to account for those 2 bullets and figure those out in the sequence of Oswald's 3 shots that he fired and any other down the thought process of the entire assassination of President Kennedy. Where could that have happened? Where could that shot have taken place? Could that come from the overpass? Would it miss the windshield because the windshield was intact? So is that shot even possible with the alignment now? That would be like one example where you could start to really evaluate these hypotheses and rule in or out direction, path, and so forth. Whether it's just another bullet that's fired from Oswald's position, we haven't gone to that next step. I mean, this is an ongoing piece of history that we're continuing to evaluate.
Stanley says determining where this other bullet came from is not their expertise, but this visualization they created from the point cloud can be used by others to determine that. The obvious question that people have asked, could that bullet have come from a different direction? A different shooter? The grassy knoll? Somebody nearby? Over the past year, I've talked several times to somebody who has inside knowledge of questions regarding the JFK assassination.
I always thought when I was in the life, either I would be killed or I would die in prison.
That's Sammy the Bull Gravano. Sammy was the underboss of the Gambino crime family in New York under infamous Mafia boss John Gotti. When Sammy turned on John Gotti during trial and became a government informant to take him down, he had several meetings with the feds for information. They asked him a plethora of things, including about the JFK assassination. Before I even asked, Sammy told me about that meeting, what was asked of him, and as a killer himself, what he noticed about the way John F. Kennedy was struck, as seen in the Zapruder film. This is how Sammy remembers one of his informant meetings.
I was in Quantico and FBI people came, heavyweights. They told me, heavyweights are coming down, Sammy. They're gonna ask you some important questions because I goof around. Don't goof, okay? I sat there. They came from Washington or wherever they came from. And they said, Sammy, we want to talk to you about what went on in the Kennedy assassination. What do you know? There wasn't a mafioso sitting on the grassy knoll.
Sammy has watched the Zapruder film countless times, seeing the president shot multiple times.
I know what it is to kill someone. I know if I shoot somebody in the back of the head, their head goes flying forward or in the neck, which he did. I saw a video. He went flying forward. You don't bounce and come this way. When you bounce and come this way, you got hit in the front with a bullet, another one. Maybe that is 2 bullets. I don't know. But I know he's not the guy who killed him.
So you think JFK was struck from the front?
You can see it, and that's from the grassy knoll.
While Knott Laboratory has no opinion on those claims, their technology is ready for experts to determine just that.
The thought process on the front to the back, now you've got to come through the windshield and things like that. So we haven't gotten too far into the weeds on that stuff, but it's there. The model is built to start to evaluate, okay, does the Warren Commission report and most other experts have it backwards? Is it an entrance wound in the front and an exit wound in the back? There's a model that exists now that's incredibly accurate. Let's start to evaluate whether that's a potential hypothesis or not. This is very legit scientific evidence. You've got to make your hypotheses account for this in the entire investigation of the assassination. We don't want to go beyond the science. So this is our expertise. This is what we know. And we would gladly team up with other experts to evaluate hypotheses.
With the JFK assassination now at its 60th anniversary, it brings up all those emotions, questions, and intrigue from people. Stanley knows there's a myriad of theories, conspiracies, and beliefs. Americans that trust the Warren Commission's findings, and just as many that believe they're inaccurate.
Ever since Jack Ruby shot Oswald in the Dallas Police Department, it just created opportunities for speculation that there's bigger issues out there.
Sammy the Bull presents a different theory based on what he knows with Mafia involvement in conversations and how his government informant meeting at Quantico ended that day. His claim about the JFK assassination is,
It was you guys. It was professional hit guys with the government, CIA.
Sammy says he learned more in the last year about conversations his captain, Todd Orello, and mob boss Carlo Gambino were having at the time, intermixed with their involvement in the government.
Now I find out that I'm almost sure it was the CIA. I'm almost sure that the vice president was involved. The guy who shoots Oswald is hooked up with the Mafia forever. He walks into a precinct with a gun and shoots the guy who supposedly killed the president and kills him right in front of everybody.
This is how Sammy said his meeting with the FBI ended.
Now, what you did with these bullets, whoa, Sammy, whoa, let's not go no further. This meeting didn't happen. Scrub all these things. It never happened. We weren't here. Okay, adios, mother. And they left.
It's a tragic event that shaped U.S. history forever.
The President of the United States is dead.
The words still haunt this country. 60 years later, technology could change the scope of that history too. The same country, but a world of difference in this digital age. Stanley, John Orr, and their team wants this out there. They say this isn't guesswork or probability. This is exact science.
Okay, here's where our science ends. Okay, now everybody else, law enforcement investigators, those people that are fantastic at that, now come in and use our information and see what you think. We can ask John Orr that question specifically, but there's more to the story, and he wants it out there in the public.
Stanley Stoll says Knott Laboratory welcomes any and all feedback from the public after listening to and viewing their scientific findings and evidence. You can go to their website, knottlab.com, if you'd like to reach out to them about this case. You can also watch our news story on these findings with visuals on azfamily.com and YouTube. True Crime Arizona, the podcast, is hosted by me, Brianna Whitney, and produced by Sergio Hernandez. It's a production of Arizona's Family, 3TV, CBS 5, and azfamily.com in Phoenix, Arizona.
This is True Crime Arizona, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast.